What's up, everybody? It's Steven
and Tristan,
and we are Practical Family Projects, where we aim to help you tackle those indoor, outdoor, home DIY
and craft projects.
Alright, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, and as always, the items that we use in the videos will be linked down in the description below.
Hey Dad, I have a riddle.
You got a riddle today?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
What is bigger when it's upside down?
What is bigger when it's upside down? I don't know.
The number 6.
The number 6, because then you turn it upside down, it becomes the number 9? That's pretty good. Nice one. I like it. Hey, in this video, we are building an Adirondack chair, and let me tell you, as a family, we have struggled with that vocabulary word, but we got it down now. Hey, we built one. The wife has decided this is the one that's gonna go around the fire pit at the lake house, so we're gonna build a few more. We're gonna build one more, and we're gonna bring you guys along for the ride. Let's rock and roll. All right, guys, so in this video, couple kind of recap of what material we're going to be using. So 2x4s, and we're using pressure treated or womanized 2x4s because these chairs are going to be outside. So we're going to need 8 2x4s, and that's what we have right here. We're going to need 1 2x6, so 2x4 by 8 foot. We're going to need 1 2x6 by 8 foot, and that's right back there. Then we got some wood screws, a square. We have this drill with our hole saw because we're going to add a cup holder to this one. And we just had this extra drill out. If you don't have an extra drill, guys, you don't need to use it. We just had an extra drill in the toolbox. So rather than having to switch bits, we're going to do that. We got a drill for screws, and we have a tape measure. We have an extra square in case we're all working together. Hammer in case we need to tap some things into place. A little torpedo level. I don't know that we need the sledgehammer, and to be honest with you, I don't know why it's here. The jigsaw, and then the drill for the wood screws. And then we just got a couple of drills just because everybody was helping. So those are the materials that we will need for this project. All right, so here's our boards. We're gonna set up the saw, and then we're gonna start cutting. Watch this. Boom. We have all our pieces cut. So we have each of the pieces cut for each part of the chair. So the first section are 20 inches long, 20 3/4 inches long, 23 inches long, 32 inches long, 26.5 inches long, 36 inches long, and 28 inches long. All right, so for the most part, all of the cuts on the chair are square cuts, but there are a few cuts that we need to make angled to account for the slope of the chair and the back leg sloped. So you're gonna have your front boards, your leg boards, those are gonna be square on both sides. So you can see that here. That's this board. It's gonna be square at the top and at the bottom. So straight cuts, no angle. You got the support board that goes across. This one's going to be square on the front, but then it's going to have an angled cut on the back. So you can see that if we put it up here, it would be just straight across, but we want it to match the slope of the back leg so that there's no overhang back there. So we're going to cut that at an angle so that it's flush on the back side. On the back leg, we're not making it straight up and down since we're going to have a sloped back. And because we have the chair sloped, so we want to slope this leg as well. So this one we're going to have a angled cut at the top and an angled cut at the bottom. And then lastly, we're going to have the support for the seat. We're going to need to have an angled cut at the top, and then we're going to have an angled cut at the bottom as well, where it's going to sit on the ground. So we'll have 2 angled cuts on this one as well. All right, so we've cut one board for each one with the angles, and we just kind of wanted to recap for everybody. So the front leg is going to be square on both ends. The cross support, this member right here, that's going to be on the outside on the right and on the left side, is going to have a square with the 15-degree angle. And guys, if you want to see a video on how to use the compound miter saw that we're using, check out our previous video where we build the console table. The wife and I went through a exercise, kind of doing some measurements and cuts, and y'all can follow along on that video as well. So for the cross member, we'll have a square cut with a 15-degree angle. And we cut one of them, and then we're going to go back and cut this one as well. For the back leg, we have two 15-degree angle cuts. So you have a 15-degree angle cut at the top and a 15-degree angle cut at the bottom. And those are going to be parallel, so they're both going in the same direction. So those are parallel angle cuts. And then for the cross member, you're going to have a 20-degree cut on one side and a 30-degree cut on the back side. So that's going to be the member that goes across like that. We're going to show you something else in here coming up. We're also going to notch the top of this board off, and I'll explain why later in the video as to why we're going to do that. Very important, kind of helps minimize some of the gap, but we'll cross that path later in the video. So we're going to cut the rest of these boards, and then we will be ready to start assembling. All right, so if you don't have a compound miter saw, it's not the end of the world. So all we got to do is get a speed square. You can pick these up at Home Depot or Lowe's or any local hardware store. And you'll notice, so if you hold it like this, that's going to draw you the square line, the 90-degree angle, right? So here's your 90-degree angle right here. So if you want to get the angle, so for example on the leg we were talking about before that this is 15 degrees right here, 15 degrees from square. So here's square from the edge, and it's going to go down 15 degrees. So you notice you have a 15 down here. So if we twist this, keep this corner touching the 2x4, we're going to move it up just so you can see it. And we're going to set this edge right here on the 15. So now we got the 15 marked right here. And we have this edge right up against there. So we're going 15 degrees down from the square edge. And if we draw that line right there, there you go. You got your 15-degree angle. And you can see it's the same as the one we cut there. And then on the other ones, we said 35 degrees. I think I said 30, but it's 35. So you would go down to 35. You see that? We got 35 on this edge. This edge is touching right here. And you mark it there. And you can see, sorry, it's not showing up real well, but there's your 35 degree. And then if you wanted to do your 20 degree, you set it to 20. You keep this edge on there. And there's a 20 degree. And so you can kind of keep doing that. And you can kind of make whatever angles you want to make. This is a very useful tool to have if you don't have a compound miter saw or a miter saw that you can cut angles on. And so once you get the line drawn, then you can cut that with a skill saw or a saber saw or a jigsaw or even a sawzall if you really, really wanted to or needed to. So it just kind of opens up your options for cutting angles on wood. Okay, so now that we have everything cut, we have all our angles cut, we have everything ready, we're ready to start assembling the chair. So we're going to start with the left side, legs and cross member support, and then we'll do the right side. And so here, the key is just to start lining up the edges. So we're going to start lining up the edges. So this is a 20-inch piece with no cuts. This is our 26.5-inch piece with the 15-degree angle. And this is our 20-inch piece that has the two 15-degree parallel angles going here and here. And so we're just going to line these up, put some screws in them, and then we'll do the other side. So this is going to be the left side. So we want this board on the outside of the chair. So this is going to be the left side. So we're going to do the right side, and we got to make sure when we do the right side. So if we follow the same rules and we did it just like we did before, then when we did put this on the right side, the board would be on the inside of the chair, and we don't want that. We want the board on the outside of the chair. So we have to flip it over like this. And we'll put one screw on this side and then flip it over and put the 3 screws on the other side. So we got that. Now we should be pretty good here. Now, when we stand them up, if we are inside the chair, we have our board on the outside on the right side and our board on the outside on the left side. So there you go. So we have that. Now we're ready to start connecting these pieces. All right, so the next step is to put the first cross member in so we can start putting the seat boards down. So we're gonna put this is a 23-inch piece right here that goes from front leg to front leg. You can see the cross members are on the outside, on the left and on the right. And we are going to measure this. I think this is 13.5 inches, so it is. So we're gonna mark 13.5 inches from the bottom of the front leg. On the inside, our support board's on the outside. We're gonna mark 13.5, and that's gonna be the top of our cross board, our cross member. So 13.5, that's the top there. And 13.5 here. All right, so at this point, it helps to have an extra set of hands. Mom is helping us right now. We're gonna put this board here. So we got our 23-inch board, and so here's a good point to note. So this has kind of got a rough side. I don't want this side facing out, so we're just gonna flip it over, and we got a nice side here to go with. So now that we got the front cross member on, we're ready to put the side cross members for the seat. And this is going to create our angled seat. So originally we had decided we were just going to put the board here. And so when we put the board here, then we would put the seat down, boards here, and then they would start following the angle here. When we did that, we realized we had a little bit of an issue. So when we did that, when we put the first board down, that board sits flat like this. But then when we put the second board down, you can see how much of a difference there is from one board to the other. And so we were like, okay, what's the easiest way to get around that? Well, we need a flat piece here so that when we put this 2x here, it's sitting flat, and then everything starts right there and goes down. So what we can do is, this is 1.5 inches. A 2x4 is 3.5. So we need 3.5 inches. So 1.5 inches, we need 2 more inches. So what we're going to do is take our smart level. We're going to set it at 2 inches. And basically, we're just going to find out where that 2 inches hits with respect to this angle. We're going to draw a line. So we're going to cut that little triangle off right there you could use a skill saw or a jigsaw. We're going to use a skill saw, and then that will mount right here, and then we'll have a flat 3.5 inch leg. And so when we do that, we'll have this board sitting here, and then our other board, or this board, sitting here like that, and then our other board will sit like this on the angle. Then you can see that gap is so much better. We don't have such a drop like we did before. It kind of evens it out on the same plane. So that was something we learned on the first one. It was a really easy decision because the wife came out and originally saw that and she didn't like it, so that makes it really easy for me. Just do what she says and everybody will be happy. So we made that adjustment, and we're going to make that same adjustment on this one. Alright, so we got our angles cut. So what we did after we measured, so we cut that angle off. Remember, we went back 2 inches. So now we have 3.5 inches. So just using our scrap boards, you can see that'll be the first seat board. Now when we put the second seat board, look at that, right on the same plane. So when we sit down, we won't have this edge right here on the seat that we have to worry about. And the most important part, the wife will be happy. So now that we have our cross member in, we have our 2 angled supports for our seat, we're ready to start putting the seat together. So we're using our 23-inch boards. Tap them in place. Okay, so this is a good example, another example right here. We got our little rough edge here. I don't want that in the front, and I don't want that there. So that looks pretty good right there. You can see what we were talking about before. We have a nice continuation on the same plane. So what we're going to do now is set the boards for the seat. We're going to keep a 1/2 inch gap in between each one. You could put them all the way together if you wanted to, but for us, we like the idea of the 1/2 inch gap. Just for being out at the lake, we don't have to worry about any water sitting in the seats, and we don't have to worry about, you know, like maybe the leaves, if it got on there, maybe they'll actually blow away. So what we're going to do is we'll do it the tedious way, I guess. We'll just measure a 1/2 inch on each side. You could get a little spacer and put a little spacer there, but we're going to do it this way. So all we're doing is we're making sure they're flush on the ends. We're making sure we have a 1/2 inch gap in between each board. Alright, so the next step, now that we have the bottom done, we're ready to start assembling the back of the chair. So we kept it really simple. Straight lines, pretty even spacing. It's roughly a 1/2 inch to 5/8 in between each one. And we kept it straight on the top. This is where you can have some fun. You could, you know, lower the back support just a little bit and make this an arch. You could make it some kind of angles. You could really kind of make it your own right here just to kind of spice it up a little bit. For us, we're okay with this straight edge all the way on the back for us. Keep it simple, but ideally you could do it however you want to. So let's go through the steps of attaching and fabricating the back. A couple of keys here. These are the cross members. These are 20-inch pieces. We only need 2 of them for the cross members, the bracing on the back. And then we have our 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 36-inch back pieces or backboards. If you wanted to make it taller, you can make it 42 inches, you can make it 48 inches. You really could do however you wanted to do it. If you're going to make some kind of an arch, you might want to make them a little bit longer so that the back of the chair is still at your head. Or you can make it a little shorter if you want to make it shorter. Something to pay attention to is which way your boards are facing. I know I keep saying that, but we want to make sure the back is facing, it's got a nice back onto it, so when you lean up against it, you're not getting any rough edges. So we're going to build it face down. So I'm looking at each board, and that's a rough spot, so I want this one going down. And we're going to do the two outside edges first. So this is a good side, this is a rough side, so we want that down. So we're going to do the two outside boards. So at the bottom, this is going to fit in between our bottom braces. So we want this 20 inches on the exact. So we're going to line up the edges. I'm going to put a couple of screws in. And again, we're screwing from the back right now. You'll see in a minute, we're going to stand this up and put this on the chair. So now the bottom's at 20 inches, you could technically kind of push these out like that and make it kind of a flared look at the top if you wanted that look. Again, like I said, you can make it your own. We really want it to be square and nice and straight, and so we're going to make sure all of these are straight lines and square edges. So we have that mounted there. Now we're going to mount the upper piece. Where we're going to mount it is we're going to measure it down 3 inches. We're going to measure and mark 3 inches. And 3 inches over here. And we're going to put this across the top. Now we're going to repeat this process again. We're looking at our boards, making sure we have a good edge. So this edge looks good right here. These are going to go underneath here, like so. And that's a good edge right there, a good side. And I like that side. Good side here. All right, so now that we have the back for the new chair put together, we're ready to mount the back. So let me just put it out there. So we've already sent some pictures of this to our friends and said, hey, look, we got chairs for the fire pit at the lake house. Everyone's like, oh, that's great. How did you figure out the slope to the back? And because there's no exactness, I couldn't tell you what degree this is. I can tell you this is how I figured it out. I set it here. I put my foot down at the bottom and I held it and I told my wife to sit down. And I moved it forward and backwards until she said she was comfortable, and I marked it and I screwed it in. So at the end of the day, I'll show you ultimately where the dimensions are for ours, but it really just it depends on how it feels to you, or if you're in my case, how it feels to your wife or your significant other, because you want them to be happy, and that just makes your life a lot easier. So I'll show you where it lines up for us on this one, and we'll do the same thing on the new one, and that'll get the same angle that we have here. All right, so 2 ways to do this in my mind. Let me rephrase that. There's probably multiple ways to do this, but for us, 2 ways for us to do it. So one way would be to measure from the top. So that's about 10 3/8, and on the bottom, clean the little extra wood off there. The bottom is 8 13/16. So we could measure on the new one. We could measure 10 3/8, 8 13/16, and then draw a line. So that's one way of doing it. We'll show you that. The other way to do it is we have this little tool right here that measures angles. And my dad got this for me a long time ago. I don't think I've used it, but a handful of times. And whenever I'm using it, it's for something like this. I probably don't get enough use out of this tool. There's probably more that you could do with this, but what you can do is you can adjust the angle and you can get it on the straight edge, and then I can tighten it down there. So there you go. So now I have the angle. I can set this on the new one, and I have the angle that this 2x is going to be mounted at. I know this is 10 3/8 from here, so I can measure over 10 3/8. And I can set this, and I can draw the line, and that'll show me where the back of the 2x4 for the back support of the backrest is going to be. So let's look at that on the new chair. So for us, just to recap, 10 3/8 to the top, 8 13/16 from the bottom, from the edge to edge. We're going to repeat the process on the other side, and then that'll tell us exactly where to put the 2x4. All right, you can see we have our lines marked. We have the back sitting here, and I just wanted to get a close-up to show you the line that we had marked from earlier. We have our back sitting here. We're going to lean it up, and we're going to screw it in. There you go. So you can see we've already got our screws started on the side. We have the same thing on the other side because we don't have an extra set of hands right now. So we're going to try to lift this up and get a screw in each side. And hopefully we do it without anything falling or getting broken. All right, the last step for the back, I'm gonna sit down here. The last step for the back is to put the middle support that'll go from this angled back leg and to this angled back leg back here. So from the bottom, we're gonna come up 13 inches. So from here to the top of this board, we're gonna measure up 13 inches. And we have cut these a little snug. There they go. All right. Let's measure up. It's pretty close right there, actually. Now, you definitely could have marked 13 inches here, but we're just going to do it this way. Not that one up too far. 13 there, and that's 13 there. 13 still, 13. All right, now we're ready to screw. We're going to screw to the back, then we'll screw on the top here, and then we'll turn it over and screw on the other side. So we're in the home stretch now. So the next step is to do our armrest, and you'll notice we actually went one step further and put cup holders in here. You don't have to do cup holders. And the other thing is we're using 2x6s. So everything else that we used was 2x4s. We're going to use 2x6s for the armrest just so we have a little more space on the sides here. And so we have the 2x6, and then we're also going to go through how we did the cup holders. And we did one cup holder on each side. And so what we did here is we have an overhang on the inside of 1/2 inch. That's just what we preferred. You definitely could set it up however you wanted to use it, or if you wanted to, make this a fancy arm and have an angle back here, or cut a circle around here. So the overall dimension here is 28 inches for us. If you were going to cut like a curved edge, you might want to make this a little bit longer so that you could have a nice curved edge out there. But for us, we're just going to take a sander and kind of ease these edges, and then we'll have it out there ready to go. And so these are 28 inches, we have a 1/2 inch overhang on the inside, 1/2 inch there, 1/2 inch there, and 1/2 inch there. And then in the front, we have 1 inch overhang up front. So you can have 1 inch here, 1/2 inch on the inside, 1 inch on the front, 1/2 inch on the inside. And we're gonna repeat that over here. So for our cup holders, we're gonna drill a 3.5 inch hole. So 3.5 inch hole. We're gonna come back from the front 7.5 inches. So 7.5. And then from the outside, so from this edge, from the outside edge, it's gonna be 2 7/8. 2 7/8. I'll make a little crosshair there. X marks the spot. So 7.5 from the front, 2 7/8 from the outside edge, and then our hole is going to be 3.5 inches. We'll do one here, and then we're going to take the top off, and we're going to notch the 2x below. So let's go through that. All right, so one note, guys, a 3.5 inch hole saw. You saw when I first started, that drill jumped on me. I wasn't ready for it. And so it kind of caught on the wood and it jumped. Be very careful. A 3.5 inch hole is a pretty big hole for a hole saw, so just be very gentle. So we cut out this the top 2x6, that's the armrest. Now we're going to cut the 2x4 that's underneath it. And this is not going to cut it all the way. It's just cutting the edges to create the round part of the bottom of the cup holder. All right, you can see when we were drilling our hole all the way down, we had our pilot hole there, and we ended up taking it all the way down to the 2x cross member. And so this is going to be the part where the cup sits. So what we're going to do is draw a straight line here, and then we're going to use our jigsaw and we're going to cut it out and make it and clean it up so that it's nice and level, or pretty level for an outside chair. So we're going to do that next. All right, so we drew a line to connect the two lines where our hole saw was going. And so at this point, we're going to use our jigsaw. At this point, if you didn't have a jigsaw, you could use a sawzall. If you didn't have a sawzall, you could use a chisel, and you could hit a wood chisel here. It would knock this piece out, and then you'd have to do some cleanup. We're going to use this because we have it. Sorry about that. We're going to use this. You could also use a like an oscillating saw if you had that as well. All right, so we got that all cleaned up right there. All we were doing was just going over it, trying to even out the level right there. So when we put a cup or a drink in there, it kind of holds it in place. So we're gonna take a little chisel and we're just gonna kind of clean up the edges here, and then we'll put the top right back on. We got the top back on, and you can see we got a nice cup holder with a bottom to hold our cup into place. We're not gonna do anything more than that right there. We'll take some sandpaper and clean up this edge right here. But other than that, that's ready to go. We're gonna repeat this process over on the other side, and then we're gonna call this one a finished project, guys. There you go, we got a finished product. So we have 2x4 back, we have a 2x4 seat, we have a chair that we are going to enjoy out at the lake house fire pit. A couple of notes, guys. You definitely could have switched up the 2x4s for like a 1x4 or 1x6 or a 1x2 or even some 2x2s to make it a little bit smaller. There's multiple ways you can make this your own and kind of modify what we've done here. We've kept it pretty simple, straightforward. We wanted something pretty heavy duty. Out at the lake, it gets a little windy out there sometimes, so we want something that's not just gonna blow over and move around. These are solid. These aren't going anywhere. These are pretty heavy with the 2x construction here. So definitely make it your own. Have some fun with it. You could have used cedar instead of pressure treated wood. You could have used regular wood like yellow pine and then painted it. There's all different combinations of things you can do to make it your own to work for you. If you're keeping them indoors, there's no reason to use pressure treated. Just use your regular yellow pine. If you're outside like we're gonna be, you're gonna be leaving them outside, definitely want to go something that's gonna last a while. Pressure treated wood or even cedar if you want to do that as well. So thanks for coming along with the ride with us. We really enjoyed this one. Again, this one's gonna be at the Lake House Fire Pit. It's all about family for us. It's about spending time together. It's about being together. It's about sitting in the chair, the little one climbing up in your lap and looking at the stars. So that's what it's about. It's about hanging out. I've been told we're gonna build 2 more and maybe a combined joint one that's kind of like a bench style, but we'll see if that really happens. For sure, we'll get 2 more built and we'll see about the bench one. But man, if the wife's telling me that she thinks she wants it, we're probably doing it. So again, thanks for coming along with the ride with us. If you really like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell for notifications for all future videos. Any comments, suggestions, questions, put it down in the comment section below, and definitely look out for our next build. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you on the next project. Thanks, guys.